Hey y'all, welcome back to the Powerlifting Podcast. I'm your host, Solana Lewis, and today Kristen Dunsmore and I we start with talking about a recap of her 69 kilo lifter that she had at PLA Nationals and the battle that she was in and how great the overall battle of the 69s was. And then from there, we talk about managing emotions on meet day and in training and just how we can prepare to manage emotions and also just like how we deal with a lifter that might be emotional and trying to make emotional decisions when it comes to attempt selection, but we as a coach are there to be objective and help them, right? So like when do we kind of lean towards what the lifter wants versus what we talked about in advance and just sticking to the plan. So I think it's a great conversation. I think y'all will like it. So I'm excited. Hope you guys enjoy it. But before you listen, if you've been here before, that means you liked us enough to come back. And that means you can absolutely take 30 seconds to leave a free 5-star review if you're on Spotify, and a 5-star review plus a actual comment if you are on Apple. It takes like 30 seconds, y'all. You can do it. It means the world to us. We've gotten some and we appreciate it so much. In the year 2024, we've had 3 new podcast reviews, and it'd be amazing if we could be at least 6 before the end of April. Okay. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm so serious. So stop what you're doing. If you're driving the car, pull over and just please go ahead and leave that review and the rating. All right, let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. All right, y'all. We are back again. How are you, Kristen, who's in Miami right now?
I'm in Miami. I'm doing really well. I'm here for a friend's wedding. So I get to see all the fellow powerlifters. It feels like, when you go to nationals and you see everyone that you see once or twice a year at a meet, that's kind of what it feels like. It's like a little get together, except everyone's like in dresses and nice attire as opposed to singlet.
Which is a nice different change, right?
Yeah, because you don't ever see that. You always see people in their lifting outfits or
Right.
at a competition competing. So to see everyone dressed up, it's like, oh, we look cute.
Yes. That
We
reel
dress
you
up
made,
well.
that reel that went like did really well when you were like, oh,
Yeah,
Ray, most expensive outfit.
I know. That thing, like, I don't know. It's taking off again right now for some reason. It like stopped, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. It's like picking up traffic somehow. I don't know if someone like reposted it or whatever. But I'm like, oh,
That's so
okay,
funny.
yeah.
I think it's a combination of like you really dressed up or put on red lipstick and like you're in like California, so it's like beautiful outside. Like, it looks like you're really like going out, like
On a
hey,
date,
like
but I'm in
it
my
was all
singlet.
that. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
it's funny.
And so I have been starting these podcasts with the intro asking our listeners to please leave a 5-star review and a rating, and I promise that if they left a rating, I would read it at the beginning of an episode. And we have 2 new ones. I'm only gonna read one this one. We'll do the next one next time. But we have 2 new
Sounds
ones.
good.
So from Granny Man 1583, a great listen. This is such a wonderful way to dip your toe into the world of powerlifting. Solana and Kristen had great rapport. Whether it's just the 2 of them or an interview, the conversation flows well without feeling like you're a third wheel listening in on 2 people talking in circles for hours. Each episode conversation is crafted with intention without feeling stilted or scripted. Love it. 5 stars.
Yay! Oh, that's awesome.
That was
Cool.
a great
Thank
review.
you. What was it, John?
No, it's Granny Man
Granny Man.
1583.
Thank you, Granny Man 1583. I appreciate you.
Hey, so beautiful start. So, well, a good way for us to start off this episode is you recently had somebody who competed at
Hmm.
nationals and in the 69 kilo weight class. And if you guys listen to Two White Lights, where I co-hosted with Steve for the previous show, we loved talking about the 69 kilo weight class because we knew it'd be a 3-way battle. And
Yep.
in my opinion, it was the best battle on the female side of that entire
Hmm.
competition. Everyone lived up to the hype because people were hitting their lifts, and that's what we wanted to see. And so that was
Yeah.
amazing. I definitely want to talk about your athlete, Chelsea, because like I know personally that she is in school getting her
Mm-hmm.
doctorate, master or doctorate.
Master's in nutrition at NYU.
Okay, so y'all NYU, like that school where you hear
Yeah.
that school, you're like, oh, you go to NYU. So like it ain't easy. She's getting her master's, doing that full time with the full workload and training for this really high level competition, trying to get back to Worlds. And on top of that, also know like she moved from Texas, like her husband's still living in Texas, and like managing a
Mm-hmm.
long distance marriage, like all of that going on in the background. I just want to talk about definitely like how did you guys adjust programming going into meet, because that's a whole lot of stress.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so I guess this podcast, we're going to discuss managing emotions and how your mental mindset can affect performance. And Chelsea up to nationals, she was working, but she had a lot of time to focus on powerlifting, and there was stressors, but not stress in the sense of like I'm in school. That's just like a different kind of stress, right? And leading into World, and I think you and I talked about this before the podcast started, where people are like, well, if you have a great training block, you just want to replicate that for the most part, right? Like maybe you're training load because you're a little bit strong, or adjusting load because you're a little bit stronger, but otherwise, we're going to kind of keep it as is, because if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? But going into this meet, it was her mental stress levels were significantly higher than they have been in the past. So we've had to modify training just because she wasn't, like, her mental capacity to focus on lifting was not there. Leading into nationals or worlds last year, she was benching, I think, about 6 days a week, and just leading into now, that just wasn't feasible. Like, she's in school full time, she couldn't commit to 6 days a week of training. I We were doing 4 days a week, and we were just kind of trying to get similar volume, but just within that 4 day training period. And it worked. Like, she did well. She benched 130 as her third. You and I said that she had a lot more in her, but it's
Did.
kind of here and now. Um, and she did great, all things considered. But I know that going into this meet, her mindset was very, very different than it has been in the past, and I do think that that has had some sort of impact on her performance, which was not even bad at all. Like, she still
She did
PR'd, she
great.
did, yeah. But Gabby came in and she was, the stronger lifter that day, and she deserves to go to Worlds. I think, yeah, that was a fun weight class to watch, and stressful
Oh my gosh,
on my end.
I can't imagine being the coach and like you're not there and you're just watching. Like,
Oh,
oh, nope, no, thank you. Like,
you know how you watch a scary movie and you just gotta close your eyes and you're peeking? I
yes.
feel like that's what I would have to do when I'm like, I can't watch this. Oh, I can't watch. And then it's like, did she get it? She got, oh yes. And then I can watch like the replay after.
Oh
But
my
going
god.
through it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't. This is too stressful.
So how are you feeling for the third squad? Because that was a very ballsy squad. Like when I saw, I believe a 5.5 kilo jump, I think she did 190 and then went to 195.5. I'm pretty sure I'm
Yes.
right. So when I saw that,
187 or 188.
oh, okay. Oh, did she
Or
chip the
no, I
second
think
one
it was
too?
187 and a half, because she broke it on the second, but then Gabby, or uh what was her
Yeah,
name?
she was breaking
Jacqueline?
it.
Yeah, so I
Gabby and
think
Jacqueline.
she did 87 and a half for her third. And historically, she hit 185 at Worlds. Um and her bench, or her squat, has been going good. So that's actually one of the lifts that she had not attempted 187 in training, and it was one of those things that we'll see how meet day looks. And obviously she was confident that she could hit it, so they put it on the bar and it worked out. I would say that that was a 10 RPE. I think if they had put 190 on the bar, it's very likely that she could have missed it. So I think that their attempt was a good attempt. Uh, but yeah, I was my eyes, I was had my hands over my face at when she was going
Uh,
up to the platform.
hold on, I'm looking it up because I am like 99.9% sure it's 195.5. I remember that number ingrained in my brain.
For
Ingrained.
Chelsea,
Yeah, her last
I
squat.
think that was Jacqueline.
Oh
Oh no,
right, what? Okay, it was
192, 192,
193.
190. Okay,
193.
sorry,
No, it's okay.
193.
I knew it was in the 90s because I knew that the second squat, so it was 188, the second squat. And I knew it was
Okay,
close to that
yeah,
number, that 187. So I was like, okay, just double checking. But regardless,
yeah.
overall, my point is like the way she grinded it out, like when I saw a 5 kilo
Oh,
increase, I was like, I don't know, because that second looked hard. I don't know.
yeah.
Like I wanted it to go, and it did go up. And when she got it, I was like, "Oh my god! If they had loaded even half a kilo more, I don't know if she would have gotten it."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was really
Okay,
incredible.
so it was 193, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. And then Gabby did 202 or 203 or something.
Nah, at that point, ma'am, I'm not.
Oh,
I
okay.
right here.
You're like, I didn't go
Okay,
that far.
hold it. No, it's cool. I'm looking right now. We have Gabby who hit 200.5,
Okay, 200. Okay. And then Jacqueline did like
and
195 and a half, right?
196.5. That's why I thought that
196 and a half.
number.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, I don't think, yeah.
But like
So
to
yeah,
watch
that
like
was,
three, like to watch people just chip the record over and over again like that. Oh my god, that's like the best feeling. You're like, oh my god, they're
yeah,
doing it. They're doing it. Like
yeah,
after squats, I was hyped. I was like, oh my god, like what's gonna
yeah.
happen next?
Yeah, that always makes for like an exciting meet. Where everyone's hitting their attempts. Like these are all elite lifters, right? And it's one of those things where if any of them had missed an attempt, it probably would have been a make or break. So had Chelsea missed her third squat, I don't think she would. She's a stronger bencher, but I don't know if she was stronger that she could outperform anyone else,
Yeah,
and she probably at that point would have had to put more weight on the bar for her third attempt bench to try and make up for missing squat. And then at that point, it's like, oh, well, she could hit it or she could not. And
yeah.
so the fact that everyone was hitting their lifts just made it like it literally came down to pretty much the deadlift, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
who is the better deadlifter? So yeah, we didn't really know who was going to take it until we got to deadlifts. And even then it was like, you know, is, because Gabby's a stronger deadlifter. We know that, but she has to hit it too. She has to make the attempt. And,
Yeah.
can she do it? And she did. She went 9 for 9 for that meet. Um, but that was definitely an exciting and stressful meet to watch.
Oh man, it made my weekend. Like watching that made my weekend.
Yes,
So
it definitely gave me some FOMO, and watching it was like, oh, I need to start taking lifting serious and come back. That lasted for all of 24 hours.
look how it goes, right? You like get the spike of oh my gosh, and it's
Let's
like all right,
go.
now calm
Yeah,
down.
like,
Like
nope, nope, it's gone. I'm
oh
good.
man. Well,
Yeah.
overall, so going from that, managing emotions on meet day. My question for you: when you are coaching somebody in person, like at a meet,
Okay.
and this person at the meet is maybe not performing as they thought they would, and we get to like it's time for the next attempt selection, and y'all had a plan. And for me personally, like we have like a plan A, B, and maybe C for like the third attempt, and you're like, hey, we need to go with the lower number, and they're like adamant no, like just I don't want to. And you can tell it's pure emotion, like like they did not misgroove the bar, you know what I mean? It's like it's just not there. How do
Hmm.
you in that moment tend to handle it? Do you tend to kind of err on the side of the lifter because like it's their meat? Do you tend to be like, hey, I'm calling the shots? Like just how do you typically go about that?
I would say it depends on the lifter. I think a more, oh, yeah, that's a So, like as a newer lifter, I think that I might be more adamant about, hey, you need to chill and we're going to be more conservative because sometimes they can get a little bit overzealous with some of their attempts. I think that a lifter with more experience, you can you can tell going into a meet when you feel good or if you're feeling a little bit fatigued and you're like, hey, this is going to be a really good day, or oh man, this is going to suck. And so in which case I may take their feedback into consideration. But I'm also going at the end of the day, it's my decision pretty much. Give or take, I guess. I mean, if I'm there handling them in physically in person, if it's like remote, which happens a lot, just because a lot of my coaching is, I don't do a lot of in-person handling unless I'm close by or it's at a meet. Like I'm not going out of my way to travel. Uh, so the meets that I've been there with people, I will be a little bit like I'll be the handler and hey, it's my decision. I value your input and I will take that in consideration. But at the end of the day, it's I'm going to put on the bar what I think you're capable of. Obviously, if it's more virtual, so like Chelsea, for example, I was not there at National. She had her husband Andre handling her and they do great together and he's been great for her. I mean, not this past training block, but in previous training blocks, like he was there for her for all of her training sessions. So he was able to see and, okay, that was a good lift, that was slower, so he can tell when like he knows what to put on the bar just because he's so familiar with her squat. So I trust him wholeheartedly when he put the 193 and a half on the bar or 193. It's like he knew. And so in that case, I might be a little bit more, I'll give you my recommendations. And Chelsea and I were kind of going back and forth, ideas, because obviously at the end of the day, the goal is to win. So it's not just about hitting PRs. It's about, well, what do we need to do to win, right? Like this is Gabby's training. This is what we know she's capable of. She's a very good deadlifter. She's a great squatter. I mean, she's a great bencher as well. Chelsea's going to have to, she's going to have to work for this one. It's not going to be like a landslide kind of win. And yeah, so Chelsea, that's to say that I will still give my recommendations and we'll go over attempt selection, but at the end of the day, I'm not there. So Andre's the handler and he's the one that makes those decisions as whether he's going to follow our attempt selection or if he's going to have to modify based off of how she's doing at the meet.
Okay. And I definitely I wanted to hear from you because, I think, especially with the experience you had, even with remotely helping out with a high level like national meet trying to get into worlds, like that's more different than like any position I've been in where I'm doing local level. I've done nationals. I have had I can talk about my experience last year where I had masters athletes who were going in to try to take the win. So mine's
Mm-hmm.
not really with open athletes, but I have a good amount of masters athletes. And
Yeah.
so I'll talk about my athlete Michelle Kane because we went to this meet last year's not mega nationals, raw nationals for USAPL, and we knew
Mm-hmm.
that we had one competitor that could either take it or like we just weren't really sure. Like her numbers in the past, because masters don't typically post their list. Like we don't really got no. We go off of open powerlifting. I'm scouting from straight up looking at numbers and that's it. It's a wrap. I'm just gonna look at how big your jumps have been and where you're starting,
Yeah.
and then compare it on me day, and that is it.
Yeah.
But we just need this person like either they could take it or like we're not sure because like they had a lot of up and down meets, that meets where they were higher than us, that meets that were like way lower, and we're like, I wish we could have seen that meet because like what happened? We weren't sure.
Yeah.
And going into the meet, we had our plan, but overall, I was like, at the end of the day, we are going to talk after each attempt because she's the person who likes that. She wants to know exactly what's going on in the bar. But I was going to make the overall final shot. And I remember when it came to like her third squat, the goal, like we wanted to also try to PR every single lift. Her training was going very well by the end of training, like just really well. It took a great uptick because we had some roughness where she was like kind of sick and like a couple blocks of just like, what is going on? I keep making adjustments, but the numbers ain't going up and she's not feeling great. And so we had a huge turnaround at the best time ever. And we go in she does her second squat and it moved a little bit slow. And I was like, I know she wanted this PR so bad. I know she wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the table. I was like, listen, I know you want the PR, but I think we should just match your best and just call it from there because you can PR your bench press and your deadlift.
Yep.
like we can't afford it. And like it was just a really great call and she agreed with me. And so I think in those moments, like it's as the coach, even though we both have an emotional attachment, because I think a lot of people talk about the emotional attachment of the lifter. As a coach, I'm so emotionally attached.
Yeah,
You're you're my baby. Like,
yeah, your
we
lifter
been together for
to
5,
PR and
6
do
months.
well.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I care more about you than my competition. So when people are like, oh, the coach can be more objective. Yes, we have to try to be more objective, but I'm so emotionally invested. It's insane. But at the end of the day, you have to just focus on the goals you talked about prior to getting there. And that's why that call
Hmm.
beforehand is so importantly. Is the goal to win? Or is this a local meet and we're just trying to literally just have fun? Because another example I can use is I had a lifter, this was like a year and a half ago. It was her first meet ever, and she was so excited, and like she was recommended by an older athlete, a master's athlete that I already had. And like
Hmm.
I think this lifter was 18. So, like, she was like, I'm so stoked. And like she kind
Yeah.
of looked up to like the other athlete, the older one, as like her powerlifting mom. And, like it was the whole thing. And she was there and we were all competing together. Well, sorry, I was coaching, they're both competing together. So it was really exciting. And she goes for her second squat, misses it on depth, right? Now she really wanted to get the teen national record for the
Hmm.
squat. So I'm like, oh no, we don't have to, no. Like you
Yeah.
missed it on depth. Like it's not, you know what I mean? It wasn't like you missed the rack command. So I'm ready to retake it. We get to the table, I'm like, hey, let's retake it and be safe. She's like, no. Like she's adamantly like, no. I came here for that record. She was, and the way she said it was very much like, I am not going to retake that number. And
Yeah.
I remember, and she kind of turned around, right? So I'm like, all right, like, well, that was that conversation. I have 30 seconds left. What am I gonna do? And I just had to think about like what her goal was. She wanted to one, have fun, two, really want to try for that record. Like that's what she really wanted. We were not gonna go into nationals. It was our first meet ever. That was not the goal. I loaded that number, girl. When I tell you, I did not have faith in the number I loaded. I did not. I'll be blunt. I did not
Yeah.
have faith in the number. Well, really her depth, not her strength. And I was like, I'm gonna load it because that's the goal we talked about, and she wants to have fun. And I think that if I don't load it, she will
She's
be
gonna.
defeated mentally, and the rest of the meet won't be fun. And she like, I want her to keep powerlifting. Like you're like 18. I want
Yeah.
you to keep going. By God's grace and her strength, she got the lift. I'm still in shock to this day. I'm still in shock. When I tell you, I was like, wow, I didn't see it coming. But I have loaded numbers before that I'm not fully certain of. And like if it was me on the platform, I would not go for it. But like if the goal really is to have fun, if we are not trying to get a first place at a big meet, sometimes you load what the athlete wants. And the worst case scenario, which has happened as well, they don't get it. Okay. They might learn to trust me more. Great. You learn that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And worst case scenario, okay, you didn't hit your numbers. Like again, we were not at Worlds. Okay, we were we were not at
Yeah.
NAPF. We were not at SPD rally. We were at a local rally having fun.
Yeah.
All right, so there's
Yeah.
the mistake.
I really like that you mentioned the difference between a local meet and a national or international level meet because the goals there are very different, right? And yes, powerlifting is about hitting a 1RM, like the maximum amount of weight possible, but there's also strategy to it. And when you're at the international, national level, if your client was like, hey, I want to hit this record, you have to like, okay, well, do you want to win or do you want to hit the record? Because those are two different. And you may like, it's very likely that you may get one or the other. What's more important to you? And so those are things that as a handler and a coach that you have to think about. And so if this lister wants to win, you're like, hey, we need you to go 9 for 9, or as close to 9 to 9 as possible. And there's a likelihood that you will miss this attempt. Do we take that chance? Or do we play it safe and hit a weight that we know that you're capable of? And these are things that as a coach, you have to think about. At a local meet, maybe where there's limited competition, or this is their first meet, and you're just trying to get them confident under the barbell. My goal for like all of my athletes who are first time competitors is basically to go 9 for 9. I don't really care how they place so much. I just want them to have a good time and be like, oh, that was a lot of fun. I want to compete again. Um, so yeah, usually like for first time me, I'm not really concerned about other people at that point. I'm concerned about my lifter doing well. And if they're, if the weights are going really well and they're, kind of neck to neck with someone else, then maybe, yeah, you can push it. But my goal is for them to want to do another meet. And if they have a bad first meet, that's not very encouraging, right? So
Yes.
it kind of just depends on what the goal is. At the Sheffield meet, why it makes it so interesting is because the goal of the Sheffield is to out total the world record, right? Like that's how you determine who wins. So at that point, I mean, you're going against other lifters, but it's not who totals more, it's who totals the world record for their respective weight class and by how much. So at that point, it's like they are putting, and of course, it's the biggest money meet too. They're putting their heart and soul on the line, and they're putting weights on the bar that they probably would not attempt at like a national or international level meet, just because that's the goal of the
Even
meet.
yeah, or even Worlds. Like if SPD, if that meet didn't exist at Worlds,
Yeah,
it's like we really can't afford for you to just go all out because you want to just show the world,
I want a
like your
PR. I'm like,
best
well,
PR.
yeah, like this is not the time to do it. And that's a big mistake that I see a lot of newer lifters when they make, and they're opening up with their current you know, weight that they hit in the meet or
Yep.
in training. And I'm like, I don't know if you want to do that. It's a
Where
little
did we
different.
go from here?
Yeah. And then you see that like people bomb out and it's like, bruh, what are you doing? Um, but I think that kind of just comes with experience and who knows if they have a coach or not, and maybe it's their dad that's been helping them or something. But yeah, I always see people when they're putting that weight on the bar and it's like a 9 rpe on their opener. I'm like, oh man.
Fingers crossed, because
uh
we are just
that
living
was
off hope and a prayer at this point. Like,
yeah, you're like, I don't know that like I don't know where you're gonna go from there, but it doesn't look like
yeah.
you got much. So
Well, I
but
think overall, just like Matt Gary's book really hones in very nicely. Like the goal is to build
yes.
into the third attempt. And
Hmm.
one thing I do see a lot from my newer athletes is they want to go all out in the second to have a chance to retake it on the
To
third.
PR their third or something.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. More so if I miss it, I have another chance kind of mentality. That's the
Okay. Yeah.
mentality I
Yeah.
see a lot.
Yeah.
And I think is super important to realize. Number one, if you want to get good at competing, the people who do the best, they're going 9 for 9. We've seen that over and over
Mhm.
again. Matt Gray points it out all the time. You look at every meet, you look at who won every nationals for going into Worlds, and most of them went 9 for 9, right?
Mhm.
So I think what's important is you cannot make your attempts based off of the second is a maybe and the third is like, okay, now we go all out and try to just empty a tank fully. You have
Yeah.
to make it make sense so that you can build into that last attempt, and you can't have a mindset of I might miss a third. Like you have to go into it with I'm building up to my third, because the third we're gonna hit. You have to do that. I used to do the whole second attempt thing when I was very, very new. I was like, oh, I don't know. Like my first meet, I definitely went all out in the second, missed it, got it on the third. Right. And it's like, oh,
Mhm.
yay, what a comeback and you celebrate. And that's awesome. It's hard to do that. However, had we just gone lighter on the second, I probably could have gone heavier on the third, like, and
Mhm.
gotten that lift. So really, you're losing out on kilos that way. And so that's just one thing I wanted to make sure people know. Like this whole second attempt, we go for it all out because we might miss it. Like, don't plan on missing. Yeah, don't plan on missing, and then that way,
Yeah.
your chance will get it.
Don't plan on missing. I like
I mean,
that.
that's the plan to
Yeah.
miss.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, powerlifting is a strength sport, but there's also strategy to it. And so that's, I think, what people kind of miss sometimes, especially with competition, is it's not always about who's the strongest lifter. It's, well, who's the strongest lifter for the day, but the smartest lifter too, right? Like I've seen meets where this person you would, is stronger. They're just a stronger lifter, right? But maybe they had, their attempt selection was kind of questionable and they only hit their openers and missed all of their third attempts. And because of that, this other person who, you know, went 9 for 9, hit all of their lifts and build the total, they won the meet. Not because they were really the stronger lifter, but they were the stronger and smarter lifter for that day. And I think Matt Gary talks about that too, as well as, you know, kind of building the total. He really hones in on that.
100%. So I
Hmm.
definitely want to go back to you. I want to bring it back to people.
Oh, wait, my competition? Are you going to bring up?
Yes,
Oh, God.
yes, I have to because listen, I go. You have been a real competitor more than once, and
Yeah.
I do know that you like people know too, like you went into them more so injured and not able to do like the best you've ever done. I really want to know, like, how did you adjust your mentality going into meet, knowing beforehand, like, I'm truly not at my strongest, and like this injury is unfortunately making it so like I really can't go balls to wall on this day.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, you know, if someone's injured, historically, I would say pull out of the meet, right? Like it's not worth it. It's not worth, you know, and especially at like a local level or something. Um, you know, to let's focus on rehabbing and getting you better, and then we can compete. And unfortunately, with something like Worlds, you like here's the thing is who knows? I may never get a chance to compete at Worlds again. You know, I haven't competed in 2 years. People have out totaled me at this point in my weight class. I mean, will I ever catch up? We don't know, right? So do I even want to? Is another question. And when it came to Worlds, it was and I had a really this was a tough decision to make because I wanted to pull out because I was like, I'm not going to do well. Why am I going to compete if I know that it's not going to be my best performance? Um, Mentally, it was stressful because my training wasn't going the way I wanted it to. And I actually had a long, really good conversation with Ryan from King of the Lifts. And he kind of put it into perspective of, you know, hey, who knows when you're ever going to have an opportunity to compete at Worlds again. And after that, I was like, he's right. You know, I just want the experience. So at that point, I kind of accepted that I probably wasn't going to win, but it was still an experience. And I think that if you have an opportunity to do it, you should. And that might be kind of controversial because maybe someone could have been like, oh, well, you should have pulled out and given someone else an opportunity to compete. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I deserved it. I won. And yeah, like I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to compete again. So I want to take the opportunity. And that was kind of my mindset for competing. Now, had it been a local meet, I would have 100% probably just pulled out.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah.
I think most important is you kind of went into it with an acceptance of I'm probably not gonna do my best. Like once you kind of wrapped your head around, I have to be realistic about that. It probably
Hmm.
made it much easier to go into the meet because you don't have an expectation that is truly like fingers have to be crossed and every T like just like a lot of things have to
Yeah.
fall into place for it to be like the best day.
Yeah. Actually, what was I found to be more stressful was they were saying that the at Worlds, the 69 weight class, or I guess they were their version of like prime time, was going to be broadcasted on some UK channel,
Oh
which
yeah,
has
is it
been like the
Eurosport?
equivalent. Yes, yes. Eurosport, which is kind of like an equivalent, maybe of like an ESPN for the US kind of thing. And I'm like, great. Now it's like I'm being broadcasted on this international, you know, video television. And I'm gonna do subpar. Everyone's gonna see it, and that actually made it stressful. And then because not some of the commentators don't really know what's going on, right? And so I remember the last worlds that I competed in, I just kind of I did 130 for a squat, like I did the opener, and that was it. I just kind of like I'm just gonna put a number or a weight on the bar just so I can get a total and maybe try to push bench and deadlift. But here's everyone else and they're going like 180, 190, 200 kilos. And then there's me like with 130. And I remember this commentator was like, oh, she's going to have to put a lot on the bar if she wants to make it up. And I'm like, oh, great. I look so dumb right now. Like, why am I here? So that was a little stressful, but other than that, I was like, whatever, it's fine. I don't care.
No,
Like,
that
what
can
else am I
definitely
gonna do
be.
at this point?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely more stressful because you're like, oh, like is this is why it's not local meat. All of a sudden we're
yeah,
on Eurosport.
yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna have, I'm doing this for me because I want the experience. And then of course it's gonna be like broadcasted around the world. I'm like, oh, lovely. But
Oh man.
yeah, I would say in most scenarios, people aren't dealing with that.
Well, again, I'm still happy though. Like you had the adjusted mindset. I think for myself, my personal experience, I've mentioned like how I went to Worlds injured, but I really want to talk about the nationals I did after Worlds because Worlds ended up going really well, and then the nationals after the back pain got worse. So I remember like I was determined to do it mostly because I signed up already because like the Worlds went well. I'm like, that
Right.
was in June and September, I think, when we had naps, and I was like, I want to do it again. Like it's my last. No, it was not my last year to junior, but still, and I remember a big motivator for me was this when Jasmine Penn just came on the scene.
Oh
And she
yeah.
my weight class 63. And I was like, I gotta compete against this girl. Like I knew like her numbers were just outshining mine, but I was like, I have to be there. Like, look, like people are getting stronger in the weight class. I can't miss out. Like FOMO for real.
Yeah.
And the day after me, like I wish I had more the knowledge I have now of just like what I could have done to help myself mentally prepare, just like go into me and mentally know that squats have been hurting every single session. So don't expect the squat to not hurt because at World the squat didn't hurt, but it hurt for multiple sessions. So I was like, I definitely went through like it's gonna be great again. It's gonna be like I show up and it's like boom, like I just do great. And I ended up going 3 for 3 on squat, but we had to lower the attempts a lot, and I was in a lot
Yeah.
of pain, and it affected like the pain in my bench, and then I missed like 2 of my deadlifts. And I remember I was like so defeated, and I was like defeated mentally for like probably a month or two. Like it was like the highest post meet blues I've ever experienced. Like
Oh,
I didn't even want to hang out with people after. Like I was like, I'm gonna go to my room. My mom came. I was like, me and mom are gonna eat pizza, and I'm gonna stay in this room for 2 days.
yeah.
I have booked longer, and I was like, I'm gonna go home. Like,
Yeah. You know what, how you said that I went into that meet with like a more positive mindset. That was not always the case. Um, I mean, you kind of we've talked about this, my injury or whatever it is at this point, the pain that I've experienced has been going on for almost 5 years now, right? So I've done meets with this dealing with symptoms. Um, and going into meets where I didn't do well and it wrecked me mentally. Like it messed me up. And I was like depressed for a long time. And I think we kind of talked about this where like my way of trying to cope was self-medicating with drinking. Um, and we all know that that never works out. So I've learned. But it took a long time for me to get to the point where I'm content if I don't compete. And I'm not saying I never will, but I'm going to the gym now and it's like I don't care about the weight that I'm putting on the bar. I'm going into the gym and my goal is to be healthy and enjoy training. So I'm to not push myself if it's not there, which is what I've had a tendency to do because we're athletes, we're competitive, and I want to lift what I was capable of lifting, before I had this injury or whatever it is. And it's just I can't force it. And for a long time I was trying to force it and it just kind of would set me back and it messed with me mentally, like hardcore. So I do think that that's something that we do not talk about enough. especially when someone's going through like pain and injury. Yeah, like physically it sucks, right? Like it hurts. But the emotional consequences that come with it, if you're not taking care of your mental health, is super important, and it's something that we don't discuss a lot when it comes to pain and rehab. It's like, oh well, let me fix the physical symptoms, but in the meantime this athlete is depressed and unmotivated, and we know that this, like that mental stress can be a contributing factor. So it's something that we highly underutilize, and I think would be really important to kind of discuss more and figure out ways that to manage symptoms, but also manage your mindset, because we definitely don't talk about the emotional component enough. Oh, you're
I muted myself. I
I think
forgot. I be over here like coughing.
oh
This so I don't like to like interrupt. This
yeah,
reminds me of a post that my friend, he just made it. I'm gonna give him a shout out. His name is Dev. His Instagram is the powerlifting professor. He's a powerlifting coach and he's also a physical therapist, and he works with a lot of powerlifters, and he's a great PT. And his post was about like managing emotions. And one thing he said in the post that I really liked is he mentioned like focusing on things that are going well in life and doing other
hmm,
things actively besides just powerlifting. Not necessarily working out more, but like anything else you could possibly enjoy. And like if you can
yes,
focus more on that and spending more time in community, maybe with friends, that's gonna be huge because dealing with injury sucks. Dealing with the bad meat sucks. I've spoken to, like, I have a lot of friends who compete at a high level. I've spoken to certain people, I won't say names, but like where I know for a fact that when they don't win the meet, they
it,
essentially kind of disappear for 1 or 2 months and like they don't talk to people. Like they
hmm,
don't talk to people. And I'm like, that can't be healthy because you're just sitting at home thinking about how the meet didn't go
sad,
great.
yep,
Yeah. And then you're at the
yeah,
gym pissed off and just think about the bad meat the whole time. It's just, hey, that can be great fuel for the training session, but then you leave the gym, you still pissed off all the time. And I'm like, well, now
mm,
it's affecting your relationships with your friends. Like, I feel like we're not even friends anymore because like you don't even respond to me at
yeah.
all. Like,
That was something that, I really struggled with in the beginning when I started having, these symptoms, was because my whole identity has been powerlifting. If you think about it, right? Like the once I started, I was all in. So I was an athlete, a coach, like I worked full time. And I kind of felt like I had it taken away from me when I wasn't competing and doing well. And it was trying to figure out, who is Kristen without powerlifting? Like, who am I? And that was hard because I didn't know, right? And am I going to, are people still going to want to be coached by me if I'm not working anymore? Or if I'm not focusing on powerlifting myself, and maybe I'm focusing on these other avenues? Are people going to kind of care about like what I'm doing if it's not me lifting and PRing lifts? And that was I mean, that fucked me up emotionally for a long, long time. And so I think I really sympathize with people when I see people who are dealing with pain and injury. It's like, oh, it's not even the pain, the physical. It's like, I know what they're going through, especially like a high level lifter who kind of just puts their all into a sport like powerlifting, and then they don't do well. And like you said, people kind of go off the grid afterwards, and you know why. And yeah, I always like when I see it happen, I'm like, oh, like I've reached out to a few athletes that I know who have been hurt, and I'm just like, just kind of giving them the support. And I mean, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but hopefully like my words of wisdom will be helpful. Who knows?
it
But I
probably
get it. It
does.
sucks. Yeah. And so, and it helps, especially, and so not even with pain and injury, but say you have just life things that are going on that's impacting your performance. We talked about Chelsea. She was having glute issues, and we kind of modified and managed training. So she didn't really have, I don't think that was like a huge factor in her performance. We did really good about managing symptoms, but her mental mindset going into the meet was very, and her stress levels were significantly higher than they have been historically. And I will say that that was probably the most impactful uh factor in her performance. And I think that's for a lot of lifters too, is people don't realize how mental fatigue can affect their training and life stress. And you break up with your, your partner, and like, yeah, it can either like fuel you and you hit PRs, or it like, you can't even get out of bed and make it to the gym. So there's like kind of that train of thought there. And there are mechanisms that you can do. And like you said, like focusing on things that are going well. And for me, I've really enjoyed yoga lately. I love yoga. I suck at it, but I don't care because I'm not competing in yoga or anything.
Thankfully, there is no competitive yoga, so
Oh, yeah, right. Because I probably would like, oh, I'm
that's
gonna
what I'm
go
saying. Like, you
compete.
can't even if you wanted to.
I mean, I'm sure they have something. Who knows? But
Don't look it
it's
up.
been nice. Yeah. Um, but I'm like, do I post like my really shitty down dog? I mean, I don't. You know what I mean? It's just and sometimes I also think that like, are people thinking that I'm gonna like, if I'm doing these non-powerlifting training, is it because I think it's going to help me in powerlifting? And that's not the case at all. I do not think that doing yoga is going to like make you a stronger powerlifter in most cases. But for me, it was just I enjoy it. It's a way that I get some sort of physical activity in. So it's been helpful. I'm not doing it because for performance, to improve my powerlifting performance by any means.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned like identity, because that's big. Like, when a lot of people, I know people whose identity is the sport, and that's directly linked to a bad knee or an injury turning into like, I don't want to be on the planet anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it can
Yeah.
get like that dark. And I think that's another problem I was struggling with back in the 2019, because
Mhm.
that was me totally like, I'm the powerlifter. That's what I got going for me. I don't know nothing else. And I was young too, like 21. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I powerlift. I'm Solana and I powerlift. Like, if you ask me, hey, who are you? But like, I'm Solana and I powerlift.
What do you do?
Period.
Oh, I'm a power lifter
Yep.
or a powerlifting coach, or I lift shit.
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
if you were to take that away, like think about it, right? Like, who is Solana without powerlifting? Someone asked me that, like asked me, and it really like it I was stumped. So I'm asking you because I'm like, yeah, like who are you?
This is fair. I just want to say I did this to Chelsea on our podcast. When I spoke
Uh
to Chelsea a long time ago, I said, "Who is
yeah,
Chelsea?" And she was like, "What?" And
yeah,
and I had given her a list of like the topics I wanted to talk about, because like we weren't friends. Like, I was like reaching out to a person I didn't know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
she was like, "Oh, thanks for the topics that I thought I like know what's gonna be spoken about." And then after the podcast, she was like, "You didn't mention that you were gonna ask me the question." I was like, "Good, but okay, who is Solana?"
Yeah.
So number one, child of God. Very like,
Okay.
me being close with God has changed my life, especially the past couple of years. And it's just a major part of my life, and it's like it just shapes how I see the world heavily now. So
Hmm.
Solana is a child of God. Solana is someone who cares about her family and supports them. Solana is a powerlifting coach who's passionate about getting you stronger mentally and physically. Solana is someone who likes to be carefree, but only if I feel like you deserve to see me carefree. All right,
I
all
like
right.
that.
Because Solana is also very guarded. Very guarded person, and I definitely have a very tough shell. And like, if you get closer to me, like it takes a lot, because I don't want to look really close to me. So I'm a
Yeah.
guarded person for sure. Um, but overall, I do have a deep passion for helping people. I'm someone who just loves helping people, and I love
Hmm.
making people feel good about themselves in general. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm
And I
turning into someone who like really enjoys being around kids, which is like crazy to say out loud, because
yeah.
if anyone knows me, I talk all the time about how I don't want kids. And that's not changed, by the way. I'm just saying I now enjoy being around kids, and like
Yeah, because
I
then you can
never
put them back
really,
when you're done. When they
of
start acting
course.
up, you can give them back to your
Oh
parents.
yeah, that's the best part. But like, I didn't even
Yeah.
really like being around kids, and now I'm like,
Yeah.
kids are great. Kids are so
Yeah.
impressionable. And it's like scary but good because you can have a great impressionable effect on kids if you are careful and like you care about helping them.
Yeah. What's funny is that you mentioned that because you know, I've always worked pretty much with athletes, right? Like I've have experience in strength and conditioning, powerlifting. I mean, I did some personal training, but my passion has always been athletes and pushing the limits of performance. And I think maybe it's just because I've gotten older myself, but recently, I would say within the last year, especially where I've kind of found fulfillment in working with older athletes or older clients. And so I work, say with elite athletes. I've been an elite powerlifter myself. I will always have a soft spot working with athletes in particular, but there's something really fulfilling when it comes to like I've a an athlete. He's 70 years old and he has no desire to compete. I mean, number one, he's like strong AF. Like he's deadlifted like
Hey,
275 pounds for reps. And I'm like, and you don't compete in powerlifting. Like it's just, it's so cool. And even like not even lifting, but working with people who afraid to lift weights because they've been in pain and they have back pain their almost, entire life or something. And then getting them comfortable with lifting and then seeing how their quality of life improves just because their pain
mhm.
maybe subsides a little bit. Like I think that's been the most fulfilling is not working with athletes, but just for lifting for health. So
I I definitely started out because I started a personal trainer, so that was all I did.
yeah,
And then I adjusted to like I think I just want to work with
athlete.
powerlifters. And I'm not gonna lie to you, that's still where I'm at. I love working with athletes and pushing performance, but there is something really special about helping someone's quality of life go up. And people, especially for me, like I really love training women, like especially women who like were seen as really weak and like like more frail, and then all of a sudden they like decide they want to like try powerlifting because they saw someone do it and it was cool. And like I
Hmm.
have at least a third of my roster is masters. And so I definitely love helping them so much because they're like, wait, like I only started lifting at like 50. And now look, I'm deadlifting 325. And I'm like, yeah, like that's really incredible.
It's been kind of like funny too, is I've never been like interested in like the in geriatrics, right? But more recently I have, and I'm like, I never thought that I would say this, but I'm like, what would be really cool to do some point or teach like a group fitness class at like a senior living facility and just like, like chair, like getting them up and down from their chair, getting them up and down from the floor. And
Aw.
so it's just funny because you think of like, who I've worked with in the past and then finding fulfillment in like getting this person to get up out of their chair unassisted. Like that's huge. But it's so like we don't think about things like that. But, you know, as you get older, those are become issues. And yeah, so I feel like I've kind of gravitated towards the older population.
That's incredible. I love that for
Yeah.
you. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
you teach your like senior fitness class, and we got the chairs
Yes.
out, we got the bands out.
Yeah, I've actually the yoga studio that I've been going to, I'll actually teach a like a group fitness class. And there's no barbell. Like we don't it's a yoga studio, right? So I mean I think the owner, she purchased some kettlebells and some dumbbells, right? But like the most weight is like 30 pounds. Um but I mean they don't care, right? Like they're not that's not their goal. And I have one client or one of the guys who had come in and I mean he couldn't even get down on the ground really, like he was struggling. And so I had to modify a lot of the training um like so he wasn't having to get like off of the floor a lot, but then like also at the same time it's like, well, he needs to because obviously like he's struggling, right? And so yeah, just modifying these training that like in our mind is I mean, barely a warm up, right? But this person is struggling getting off the ground, but that was his workout. And now he's starting to, it's funny to see his improvement. And even just like in a short couple of weeks, just because he was doing nothing at all to getting off of the floor. And he's like, look, I'm doing it. And I'm like, that's so
Oh
awesome.
man, that probably has him so
Dude,
happy.
he loves it. He's been going to all of my classes and yeah, it's great.
That's
So much fun.
incredible.
Yeah,
Okay, the last thing I want to ask you, could only because you brought up this episode, how many days are we into sobriety, Kristen?
almost a year.
Oh my god!
Hmm.
Yay! I love
Yeah.
you. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, I'm proud of myself because I never thought that that would happen, you know? And I will say that my mental health has improved, but I think that's because, I mean, number one, just not drinking, but now I'm putting effort into other things that are like good for me, like going for walks, reading, going to yoga, even doing some like meditation and like going to church, you know, these things that I wasn't doing because I was probably drunk or whatever. Um, but also just for my mental health, like waking up in the morning and journaling, you know, going out and forcing myself to go out and do things. And so, yeah, that could be a
Amazing.
whole nother episode if we wanted to.
It will be in the future. It definitely will be. I will say, remember I mentioned I was like, let me try dry January and then February.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm committed to a whole year. I
I'm
haven't touched
so, I love
alcohol.
that for you.
I
That's so
haven't touched
awesome.
nothing.
Yeah, it's, and I don't miss it. Like, I just, yeah, I'm,
I
I
I
think
can't
that's
believe I
awesome.
don't miss it. Like you don't understand. It's crazy because it really hit me. Like even if you're drinking on a social scale only, and it's not like impairing your overall health, towards like oh we need to stop. It's like no, it affects you. It really alcohol affected me. I really would
Even
not
if
feel
you're
good for
not
like
actively
72 hours.
drinking, even if you're not actively drinking, it like it, and what I mean by that is, you know, you didn't, you drank last night and the next day, you know, maybe you're not hungover, but it does impact you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I said, my mental health, like I was anxious. And I think a big part of that was drinking. Even if I wasn't actively drinking that day, my stress levels were significantly higher.
Yeah. And really, when I dug into my why, I was like, I'm only drinking 'cause I think it makes me more fun when I'm out with people. Why am I not
Hmm.
fun? What's going on? I'm fun without the drink.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if I need this to have fun with y'all, then maybe I shouldn't be around y'all. And it turns out it really was just me, though. My friends are great. Like,
Yeah.
truly,
Well, you know what's
they're
funny
fine.
is like I've gone to bars and stuff and I've gone with friends and you know, you see people out and they get shit faced and I'm like, I
Hmm.
look at it like, oh my God, you're so obnoxious. And then I'm like, oh my
Yes.
God, that was me.
Yes, girl.
But when you're sober, then you see it, you're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed for you.
The amount of
I'm
events
so
I've been
embarrassed for
to
myself.
with free alcohol, turning it down, number one feels like a superpower. But number two, yeah, by the end of the night, I'm like, not even people who are wasted. I'm just like, y'all are just like a little sloppy. And like y'all are saying stuff that I know you wouldn't say sober. Like, I mean, I'm
Hmm.
enjoying getting the tea, but like you ain't gonna remember I know this. And it's crazy the
Yeah.
stuff people have told me, they have no idea I know it. Cause I was sober and I remember every word they
And
spoke.
they don't remember because
And
they
they
were
have
blacked
no
out drunk.
idea.
Yep.
Oh my
It's
God.
funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
All
Well, this
right.
was a good one. I like this. Good,
I love
good
this one.
conversation.
Hey, thank you as always for being here, Kristen. I love talking with you on the podcast.
Yes, I enjoy it. Let's keep it going.
We will,
Like
of course.
God, I don't know why I forgot his name. Granny something.
Oh, it's like Granny Mac 1834, something like that.
How the hell do you remember that?
Because I just read it.
Oh,
But
okay. Well,
anywho, y'all catch you next time on the Power and
the
Lifting
power in
Podcast.
lifting.
Hey.